This con
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Suresh.
Thank you for acknowledging. A very good morning and good evening, guys.
Good
So,
morning.
Morning, sir.
welcome to data engineering course. Uh, I just want to check on a couple of things before we start our introductions. Okay. So today it's going to be an introductory session, right? I'm gonna introduce myself and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. And then, I'll be introducing the course content. You'll get to understand what you are going to learn in next couple of months as a part of this course, right? And then, based on time left, we will see what we can do. Okay. So once again, welcome to Azure Data Engineering course, guys. Um, Try to remain in mute, as much as possible because sessions are being recorded, and try to use chat as much as possible for the interaction, guys, and try to make the session as interactive as possible. Okay. Now, how many of you are part of my demo, which I have taken last week? I think it's last Sunday. 3, 4, 5, 7, okay, 8. What about others? Okay, no problem. So today's session is all about getting yourself comfortable, guys, right? So let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh, and I have been working as a data engineer from 11 years, 11 plus years. Okay. So back then, this role is not called as data engineer. When I started my career, I started as a Hadoop developer, typical big data technologies. I mean, this is where actually distributed computing framework came into picture, right? So then I moved into Spark, and then I moved into cloud. And with cloud, people started, calling us as data engineers. Earlier, it was ETL developer or Informatica developer, or we have different tools. And or maybe, if you're working on a distributed computing frameworks, you are called as Hadoop developer or a Spark developer. But there are no such developers today. So everybody are referred as data engineers. Okay. So I have been working as a data engineer from 2017, 2017 to 2018, in between 2017 to 18, and worked with various organizations and on different domains. My core area, I mean, when I'm talking about domain, is asset management. And I got a chance to work on IoT data sets and digital marketing data as well. Okay. And talking about my training experience, I have been training folks from past 7 years. Okay. So like I said, like the technology evolved, I also started training folks on Hadoop. Then we moved on to Spark, and currently I'm teaching Azure Tech Stack. Okay, especially when I say Azure, you have hundreds of services, but we will be dealing with data related services in Azure. Okay, so in addition to Azure, I also have hands-on with AWS and GCP. AWS, I would say that comes third. Uh, for me, Azure, and then GCP, most of the projects I worked on. And then I have good hands-on on AWS as well, but not as much as GCP and Azure. Okay, so this is a little introduction about me. Now, if I want to hear from you. Probably what you can do is, this is the format I'm looking at: your name, and then your experience, or maybe your current technology. Okay, and then your experience. Say, for example, name. I'm currently working as a data engineer, and my experience is 11. Okay, say, for example, if you are a fresher, I just want to know you are a fresher. You can just ping your name and then you're a fresher. Okay, please use chat window, guys. Just want to understand the experience level of my participants. Hi Vasavi. Hi Anas. Hi Vidyasagar. Guys, another request, please don't join with initial. Um, okay. Hi Sri. Hi Arif. Hi Dharani. Hi Kavya. Just completed my masters. Okay. Hi Maleshwari. Hi Kirtana. Hi Monish. I would consider you as a fresher. Hi Dilip. Okay. So I think we have a right set of participants. Most of the people are from ETL background, which will make my life easy, and the others are freshers. You know, again, it will make my life easy. I'll tell you the reason why I'm telling you this. I started my career in TCS, and uh, there is something called as ILP in TCS, Initial Learning Program. I don't know how many of you have earlier worked for TCS, but initially the training they offer is on what are the technology they have, a good number of open positions to fill with freshers, right? So the first thing I have learned when I'm starting my career is whenever you are learning something new, right, you'll have to unlearn what you already know and then learn the new technology. Until and unless you do that, you can't appreciate what you are learning. I'll tell you a simple example. So uh, like I said, I started my career with Hadoop. So when I started writing this MapReduce code or Hive queries, I don't know how a typical RDBMS works or a typical data warehousing projects works. Okay, so I know theoretically because I'm from a computer science background, but I have never really worked on those things. And when I was teaching Hadoop to the folks who are coming from a typical ETL background, they couldn't accept the fact that Hadoop doesn't support update. So you cannot actually update any HDFS files, update or merge or whatever it is. Okay. So doing an upsert on a Hadoop file or HDFS file was nothing less than a big project. Okay. So, people who are coming from this RDBMS or data warehousing background, they couldn't digest that. The reason being was, how can you use a database without an update operation? Right? I mean, now things have changed. I was just giving an example. So it became really difficult for me to convince them. So that's the reason if somebody is coming from ETL background, somebody is coming from fresher, I would say, my life will be easy for that batch. Okay. Because ETL background, you are not going to learn anything new which you don't know. maybe whatever the operations we are going to do, whatever the solutions we are going to build, either you might have already done it or you might have already known it, but the way we do it or the tool we use it will be different. As simple as that. So we are going to use the same SQL, we are going to use the same incremental loads, same batch loads, right? Different sources where we pull in data, do all the data wrangling, and then push it to the target systems. Okay, but just that, it's like old wine in new bottle. Okay, so the same operations we do it using PySpark or maybe Data Factory or maybe Synapse Transact SQL. Okay, so we will be learning all the tools that supports these solutions. Okay, and freshers comes with a fresh mind and they don't carry the baggage, maybe coming from a different stream altogether. Okay, so with that, I'll be taking you to what you are going to learn for next couple of months. Okay, so you might get a question, boss, what are the prerequisites for this particular course? Okay, so I'm going to talk about that prerequisites a little later, maybe probably after I introduce what you are going to learn for next few days. Okay, I mean next couple of months. So course duration is 2 months, guys, and we will start with understanding what data engineering is all about. Okay, so as a data engineer, what do we do? And I'm going to talk about all the different roles we have. So like I was mentioning, there were different roles earlier and all those roles were consolidated as a data engineer today, right? So I just want to talk about these roles. You might have heard about some terms like staff data engineer, staff data scientist. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about those roles, but I'm going to talk about those roles as well. Okay, so you'll get to understand what a data engineer does in day-to-day life. Okay, and then we will move to the introduction of cloud. Okay, so this is where we'll get to talk about what are the different what exactly a cloud is. We'll start with, and then we'll move on to what are the different cloud deployment models we have, like public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, and then multi-cloud, which is gaining prominence these days. Okay, and then we'll be talking about different types of cloud services we have: infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and then platform as a service, and then we have something called as serverless. Okay, so we'll be talking about these terminology, and then I'll be introducing Azure to you. Okay, and in Azure, whenever we talk about any data services, right, we will talk about couple of things, couple of components. One is storage, and the second one is compute. Storage and then compute. So here in our case, we are going to learn ADLS Gen 2 for storage, and then there are different data services for compute. So talking about this ADLS Gen 2, right? So this uses something called as blob storage. We'll be deep diving into it. So we'll be seeing what a blob storage is, what ADLS Gen 2 is all about, what are the other types of storages that Azure supports, right? And then we'll be talking about the replication, we'll be talking about the redundancy, we'll be talking about few data protection principles. Okay, and then I'm going to show you something called as lifecycle management policy, how we can apply. Maybe once you have processed your data, you want to move it to an archive storage or archive tier. Okay, how we can do that, all those things we'll be discussing during ADLS Gen 2. Okay, and then we will move on to the compute services. Okay, so compute services, we will start with Azure Databricks. Okay, so Azure Databricks is one service where you can process your data using something called as PySpark, or I would say Spark. Okay, in PySpark, in Spark, we will use something called as PySpark. Okay, so Spark is a distributed computing framework, guys. Okay, say for example, you want to process your data by writing a SQL query. uh, for a developer it is just a SQL query, as if you are triggering it in a single node machine or a single database machine. Okay, but how Spark does it is completely different. Okay, so Spark, you know, runs the query in a distributed fashion. And as a developer, do you have to worry about it? Answer is no. Okay, so we will talk about how Spark does it in a distributed fashion, and there are multiple ways where you can leverage Spark framework for distributed processing. Like you can use SQL, you can use Python, you can use R programming language. Okay, so we'll not get into all those things. We'll talk about PySpark. Okay, and once that is done, we'll be talking about what additional features Databricks is offering you, like Databricks widgets, and then creating a Databricks compute. We'll talk about Unity catalog, we'll talk about volumes, we'll talk about Databricks jobs, Databricks workflows. Okay, so a lot of additional features what Databricks is bringing onto your plate are something which we'll discuss in addition to this PySpark framework, which is core. Okay, and once we are done with that, we will get into the most easiest service in Azure, is Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory, you don't have to write a single line of code. Everything is drag and drop. Everything is drag and drop. When I say drag and drop, it's all configuration driven. All you just need to do is give some configurations, and everything will be taken care of. So we'll talk about what Data Factory is all about, and then the core components of Data Factory, like how do you create an integration runtime, how do you create a linked services, how do you create data sets, and then how do you create pipelines, activities, triggers, what are the different types of activities we have, like copy activity or metadata activity, or if then activity. There are a lot of different activities. We'll talk about most of them. Okay, I'm not saying we'll look at all of them, but we'll cover most of them. And then I'll show you how to add triggers to your pipelines, right? And then how to debug your Data Factory pipelines when something went wrong, how do you monitor them. Okay, and then I'm going to introduce something called as SHIR, self-hosted integration runtime. So we have a couple of things. One is integration runtime and another one is self-hosted integration runtime. So generally, whenever we pull data from on-premise systems to cloud, we use something called as SHIR, self-hosted integration runtime. So you're gonna set up a MySQL database in your PC. Okay, we assume that as an on-premise database, and I'm going to show you how to pull data from your on-premise database to Azure systems. And also I'm going to show you how you can pull data from your on-premise file system to the Azure storage, which is ADLS Gen 2. Okay, and then we'll be moving on to Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, so once we were able to cover these parts, right, we have almost covered 60% of what Synapse Analytics is. Okay, because Synapse Analytics, SQL, you will be able to write code in Synapse. Spark, you will be able to write code in Synapse Analytics. And then Synapse Analytics also have Data Factory pipelines integrated. Okay, so the moment we were able to cover all the previous topics, we are almost done with 60% of what Synapse Analytics is. Okay, and then here we are going to talk about different types of pools we have. We call them as Synapse pools. There are two types of pools. One is SQL pool and second one is Spark. And in SQL, we have again couple of classifications. One is serverless, and second one is dedicated. There is something called as dedicated SQL pool, serverless SQL pool, and then dedicated SQL pool. So we'll get to understand the architecture, how they both are different, when we should be choosing what type of pool, are a few things which we are going to talk about. And then I'm going to show you how to create tables, how do you uh, create your transact SQL scripts. And then I'm not going to teach you transact SQL though, but maybe I'll pick up a couple of examples and then show you how you can create your pipelines. Okay, and in addition to that, we'll be talking about another service called Azure Key Vault. Okay, there is another service called Azure Key Vault. So basically, Azure Key Vault is a service or is a vault service which will help you to manage your secrets. Okay, so when I say secrets, your secrets could be some keys, or they can be your passwords, right? So generally in a production environment, will not be flashing our passwords in your code. You will never hard code them. Instead, you will be adding your passwords to the key vault, and you use these keys to access your password. Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through this key vault as well, how it is done. Okay, now you might ask me, boss, whatever you are showing is good. Now you tell me what are the prerequisites, because we are coming from different background, and what we should already know, right? Now talking about prerequisites, right? The first and primary prerequisite would be SQL. So when I say SQL, you should understand different SQL operations we have. Okay, you don't really need to have all the database knowledge, but knowing SQL is very important. Okay, so for example, what a select operator does, what a filter operator does, what a join operator does, what a union operator does, all these operations, right? SQL operations, you should know what they are doing, what is a windowed aggregation is, or windowed aggregate function is. Okay, at the end of the day, trust me guys, if you can write a SQL query to solve your problem, converting that SQL query to PySpark code is not a big deal.
లోపలికి కూడా అక్కడ కూడా జోన్ లో కూర్చుంది, Zone 1 Zone 2 అని పెట్టేసి అక్కడ కూర్చున్నాం.
uh, guys, can you please go on mute?
బ్యాక్ బై కంప్లీట్ అందరం అక్కడ దిగేసి అక్కడి నుంచి ట్రైన్కి వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు.
Okay, so guys, whoever are joining using your mobiles, right, please make sure you are not touching the unmute button. Okay, otherwise whenever people are going through your recordings, they'll hear your personal conversations. Okay, yeah, so SQL is the core. Understanding SQL operations is the core here. So if you have that knowledge, we are good to go. If you don't have, still fine, I'm gonna teach you. So we have SQL for scheduled for 4 to 5 hours. Okay, so I'm gonna teach you the basics of SQL. You'll get to understand what each operation is doing, which might be a little boring for folks who already knew SQL, but you'll have to bear with me, guys, in the interest of people who doesn't know SQL. Okay, and second one which you'll have to know is Python. So when I say Python, Python is an ocean. You don't have to learn all the Python, but the basic Python. So when I say basic Python, you'll have to understand what Python variables are, how we declare them, and then maybe some core features of Python, and then conditional statements, loops, right, and then control statements. Okay, so I think the knowledge up to this level should do for this course. Okay, maybe if you could learn collections, there is nothing like it. Okay, so these are the prerequisites, I would say. Now you might ask me, boss, I know SQL, or maybe you are teaching SQL, we are fine. Then what about Python? Okay, I'm gonna tell you. So we are going to use Python during PySpark. So PySpark, I'm gonna teach you for around 10 hours. Okay, so those 10 hours you will feel a little inconvenient, because you will understand what's happening, what input data is, what output you are getting, but you'll not be able to understand the code. So for example, when I want to join two data sets and maybe apply a sum aggregate, grouping by some three columns. Okay, so you'll be comfortable writing that SQL query, and I'm gonna replicate the same logic using PySpark. So whatever the operation I'm doing, whatever I'm doing, you'll get to understand, but you will not be able to understand the code, the syntaxes. Okay, so which is still fine. Probably when you learn Python, you'll get to understand. Or if you want to simultaneously learn Python, I would highly recommend, because for us to start PySpark, I would take at least 10 sessions. Okay, so you have 2 weeks of time. Maybe you can spend a couple of weekends, maybe 3-4 hours. There are a lot of videos in the YouTube where they're teaching entire Python in 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. I'm just kidding. Okay, but at least spend some 5-6 hours of time at least to learn the topics I have told you now. Okay, so that should make you feel comfortable when I'm teaching PySpark. And other than that 10 hours of sessions, I'm not gonna touch Python at all. Okay. And the second thing I want to highlight here is, roles. Okay. Now, talking about roles, right, we have data engineer, and we also have something called as data administrator. Okay. So I also want you to understand the difference between data engineer and data administrator so that, I'll not get a lot of questions in administration area. Okay. So these are two different roles and they are mutually disjoint. So when I say disjoint, there won't be any activity where both of them will do together. Okay. So as a data engineer, I deal with data movement right from my source till the target, and all the wrangling that needs to be done or all the transformation that needs to be done is something which I'll care about. Okay. And data administrator is someone who will provide you all these services for your use. Okay. So for example, maybe you want to write PySpark code in Databricks. So who will provide you Databricks? So this data admin guy is the one who is responsible for providing you Databricks service. As a developer, all you'll have to do is just log into your Azure account, open Databricks service, and then start writing your code. You don't bother about managing Databricks service. Say for example, Databricks is down. You're not responsible. Your admin guy is responsible, and people call the same admin guy with different names, platform engineer or platform administrator. There are different names, but they are the ones who manage your infrastructure. Okay. So now you might ask me, boss, in that case this is a data engineer course and who is going to provide us with all the services? So we are going to create all these services with basic settings, guys. When I say basic settings, say for example, I'm working for an entrepreneur, sorry, I'm working for an enterprise, right? So the way I set up Azure is completely different from the way we set up Azure in our course, because here we'll do it with all the public settings and with minimal configurations that are required for us to get going. But when it comes to organizational setup, right, there are a lot of things that would come into picture. The compliance of your the compliance will have to comply with all the rules of your organization. You'll have to do a lot of network settings to bring all these services into your organization network. We call it as a private network. Okay. And then VPC settings will be there, and then RBAC settings will be there. There are a lot of things that would come into picture. Okay. So we'll not be getting into those things. Okay. But let me tell you, let's say in future you want to learn administration as well. Whatever you are going to learn in this course will cover 30% of that course as well, because here we don't have an admin guy who can directly provide us with a platform. So we'll have to provision our infrastructure ourselves. So we'll be looking into administration aspects as well, but you'll have to understand where to stop. If you want to deep dive into administration, you can do it, but offline. Okay. Sometimes in administration, even I might not be able to help you out if you come up with a different set of questions. Okay. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, Suresh, one quick question. So, as part of this course, will you be covering
Your voice is very low.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. So, as part of this course, will you be covering the Azure Event Hubs also? Azure Event
No,
Hubs and
no, we are
Stream
not going
Analytics.
to we are not
Okay.
going to get into real-time streaming analytics.
Okay.
I mean, we are not going to touch real-time streaming use cases.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
but I will give you the architecture of how a real-time streaming works theoretically.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about event hubs there. I'm going to talk about streaming analytics, and also there is something called as structured streaming in Spark.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about that for a couple of hours, but we'll not do hands-on in real-time streaming. We'll be focusing on batch. And let me clarify this as well for every one of you. Even in real time, right, 70% of the projects today are batch processing. Okay.
Good. Good to know that.
Yeah. And I wish the course duration is 6 months. Okay, so that I can cover all these services. Okay,
s-
but
so
you will get to understand a lot of things. Yeah, Riff, go ahead.
sorry, yeah,
You're
one more
asking
question,
something.
Suresh. Yeah, Suresh. So, in terms of certification, right, Suresh, like there are some other
Mm.
topics that was needed for certification, right? So,
Yes.
with this course, can we crack DP 203? I mean, will this course be enough, or like do we need to do additional reading for DP 203?
Okay. I'll answer this question. Okay. So, how many of you want to clear certification, guys? Just ping me in your chat window. How many of you are looking for certifications? Especially people who are joining from US, they'll be definitely interested into certifications because that's add a value. That will add a value to your resume. Okay. So trust me, if you are here for certification only, okay, I'm gonna make you clear your certification tomorrow itself. Okay. If you understood what I mean. But that's definitely not our goal. That's the reason you are here to learn. Okay, so don't worry too much about certification. And also, even in certification, right, whatever the services I'm covering will be 70% of your questions. 70% of your questions, and the rest of the 30% questions, you will get from something called as Cosmos DB. Okay, and Event Hub, I have written DP203 thrice because the validity is only 1 year. So to renew it, you'll have to take that exam every year. Okay. So I have never seen any question coming on Event Hub, at least in my case. Okay. But in addition to above services, you will get questions on Cosmos DB and sometimes on streaming analytics as well. Okay. And in certificate point of view, okay, maybe reading introduction of these services should do. Reading introduction of these services should do because the questions would be like, I have so and so use case. What tool would you think will be the best fit? Okay, or maybe I have some problem. Okay, and I'm solving this using Cosmos DB, my data problem, and how should my key would look like? Okay, so these are the type of questions which you would get, right? So I'll tell you what to read and where to read to. Maybe knowing that introduction and an overview of these tools should do for clearing the certification. And also there is another way too where we can cheat. I don't want to talk about it now, but we do have dumps available for Azure. Okay, so that's the reason. At least in India, we don't care about certification. Okay, so for me, if somebody says he's certified, I don't care. Okay, but yes, dumps are available. I understand, markets differ from place to place, and in US, certified resumes will have more weightage.
Yeah, Suresh, that is true. Unfortunately, in US, that
I
certification
know, I know,
has
Arif.
somewhere. Yeah,
I
but
I have been training folks from 7 years, so I know how things work there. And 70% of my participants are from US.
correct. So, in terms
I
of,
know how things. Hmm.
sorry, Suresh, to cut you, just one
No,
quick
no, go
question.
ahead.
In terms,
Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
yeah, in terms of like for the interview, right? Like, which topics should we focus more, like ADF or like a Databricks, or like, are both are important? Like, which one we should focus more?
It depends on how you are marketing your profile.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, Databricks alone can fetch you a job.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have to tell this to you, but what you can do is you can open any job portal and then search this keyword Azure Data Engineer and see the job description. And I can guarantee you that 99 out of 100 will have Databricks.
Yeah, that's right.
Fetch you a job. And knowing other services will definitely a good addition. Okay, and it also depends on how you are marketing your profile. You are marketing yourself as an engineer, you are marketing yourself as an architect. Even those things, define the complexity of your interviews. Okay, but when you're marketing yourself as a, because what I understood so far based on my experience in US, experience doesn't really matter, but the role for which you're applying does matter. What do I mean by that? Even a 15-16 year experienced guy can still work as a data engineer in US, which is not the case in India. If somebody is joining from India, that is not the case with India. Okay, if you are a 15-year experienced guy, the expectation on you would be an architect knowledge. Okay, but in US it all depends on how you market your profile. Okay, so definitely pay would also be directly proportional to your role, but that's how it is. Okay, but when you are marketing yourself as an architect, you'll have to learn all these things. They expect you to learn all these things, though you don't have hands on, but at least you should know theoretically what is what. Hope that answers your question, Arif.
Yeah, Suresh. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, any other questions, guys? Saturday we do have classes. So Vidyasagar, it depends on whether you're joining from India or US. Okay, if you are joining from US, yes, you don't have classes on Saturday. If you are joining from India, you have classes on Saturday morning, which will be US Friday evening. Okay, so the class schedules are from Tuesday to Saturday. If you are joining from IST, if you are joining from US, it's going to be a Monday to Friday evening. Okay, so any other questions, guys?
Suresh, will you be doing any real-time project on, I mean, just on any ADF or like a Databricks, any scenarios, real-time scenarios? I mean, I know like you'll be covering all the concepts, but like
Hmm.
real-time kind of scenarios will you be covering, like one or two scenarios as part of this
One or
course?
two. I'll be covering more than 20.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm telling you something, Arif. It's not just to you, for every one of you. Most of the people are from ETL background too. Okay. So first things what we'll have to understand is real-time project is a myth in trainings. If people promises you, you just don't believe them. Okay. So no organization will give data sets for free or just like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we are going to build the solutions which we usually use in real-time projects. Okay, say for example in PySpark we have write modes called append and merge and overwrite. Okay, while explaining them, I just don't tell you what is append, what is merge, and what is overwrite. I'm gonna tell you with an example. Say for example, I'll take dimensions, SCD, slowly changing dimensions. I'll explain you what is type 1 dimension, what is type 2 dimension, and how these dimensions can be implemented using these write operations or write modes. Okay, so for example, there is something called as ADF. In ADF, we have something called as metadata, get metadata activity. I'll first tell you what get metadata activity is, and we will build an end-to-end pipeline using get metadata activity. So for example, I want to process files, which were added in last 1 hour from the source directory. I'm going to show you how you can do that. So for every topic I teach, I'll be creating a scenario around it. Okay, and then I'm gonna walk you through.
Yeah, sure, Suresh.
Okay, so likewise we'll get to learn a lot of things. For sure I'm gonna cover a lot of such scenarios, but end-to-end real-time project is a myth. Okay,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna explain you all the projects which I have worked on. We will be spending around 2 to 3 hours in explaining the projects which I have worked on and how a typical cloud data engineering projects would look like, because today 90% of them are migration projects. Agreed?
yeah, that's right, Suresh.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Class duration is 1 hour. That's correct, Sagar. I think Arif have covered most of the questions which other people might have. Thanks to him. So any other questions? Okay. In that case, we'll keep it short. First session. Okay. I'll let you go back and then go through the curriculum that is shared, which I'm gonna teach, and try to relate it with whatever we have discussed today. And we are gonna start with what is data engineering from tomorrow. Okay. I have covered or discussed most of the concerns or questions you might have in your mind. Okay, cool. Thank you all. Then see you tomorrow. And we'll start with our first topic, what exactly a data engineering is. Good day and good night for the folks joining from US.
Thank you, Suresh.
No worries.
Thank you, Suresh.